I didn't plan on leaving college. Not really, it just happened. One week I was pulling all-nighters trying to cram for a psych midterm, and the next I was throwing textbooks in a cardboard box, avoiding eye contact with my dorm RA. I didn't even tell my parents. I just packed up and left. I was tired. Tired of the debt, tired of pretending, tired of chasing a life I wasn't even sure I wanted. So when my cousin Tyler texted me about a ranch job out near the sticks, I said yes without asking too many questions. I needed a place to be that wasn't home, and I needed something to do that didn't require a degree. That's how I ended up standing at the edge of a long gravel driveway in northern Arizona, staring at a wooden gate that read, Hollow Rock Ranch. A warm breeze kicked up the smell of dry earth and hay, the kind of place where cell service dies and time slows down. "You must be Matthew," a voice called from the other side of the fence. I looked up, squinting against the sun. A man stepped into view, tall, broad, with sun-browned skin and a dark green button-down rolled up at the sleeves. His jeans were faded and tight enough to show thick, muscular thighs. A beige cowboy hat shaded most of his face, but his mouth, rough, a little chapped, curved into a polite smile. "That's me," I said, brushing dust off my backpack. "Tyler said you needed help for the summer." He nodded once, eyes scanning me like he was sizing me up for a saddle. "Yeah." "He said you didn't have much experience." "None," I admitted, "but I'm a fast learner." His lips twitched at that. "We'll see." He unlatched the gate and gestured me through. "Name's Jesse. I run the place. Follow me." The ranch was big, bigger than I expected. Acres of fenced pasture, a few low barns, a chicken coop, and a modest ranch house with a wraparound porch. Everything smelled like horses and sunshine and old wood. Jesse walked like someone who didn't waste steps. He didn't say much as he showed me the bunkhouse, a small shed-like structure with 2 narrow beds, a mini fridge, and a shower that looked like it hadn't been scrubbed since the Bush administration. "You'll stay here. It's just me and one other hand right now. Caleb. He's gone for the weekend." "Cool," I said, dropping my bag. "What time do you usually start?" "Sunup," he replied. "That's around 5. My eyebrows shot up. "AM? That earned a low chuckle. "Yeah, you can sleep in if you want. Just means I'll do your chores and dock your pay." He turned to leave, then paused. "Dinner's at 6. My place. You can eat alone if you want, but it gets cold out here at night. Company helps." And just like that, he walked off. That night, after trying and failing to nap through the heat, I wandered up to the house. Jesse answered the door in a white t-shirt and sweatpants, both hugging him in ways I had to pretend not to notice. He looked softer without the boots and hat, but no less imposing. "You hungry?" he asked, stepping aside. The table was already set. Chicken, beans, mashed potatoes. Not fancy, but home-cooked. "You cooked all this?" He shrugged, grabbing 2 beers from the fridge. When you live 30 miles from the nearest diner, you learn. We ate mostly in silence, the occasional grunt or one-word answer filling the gaps. I was too busy watching how his forearms flexed when he cut into his chicken to really focus on food anyway. "You from here?" I asked eventually. "Was born 2 counties over. Bought this place after my dad died." "Oh," I said, then instantly regretted it. "Sorry." He waved it off. "It was a long time ago. Ranch was his. Now it's mine." I nodded slowly. "You ever think about leaving?" He chewed that thought for a while. "Every winter. But no matter how far I go, I always come back." There was a quiet weight to that, like he'd tried to outrun something once and failed. When dinner was done, I offered to help clean. He didn't say yes, but he didn't stop me either. After the dishes, we sat on his porch. 2 beers between us and a sky so wide and full of stars, it made my chest ache. "You ever feel lonely out here?" I asked before I could stop myself. Jesse didn't look at me, just took a long sip of beer and said, Sometimes. There was something about the way he said it. Not sad, not dramatic, just honest. That silence stretched long, and I suddenly became aware of how close we were sitting. Our shoulders weren't touching, but they could be if I leaned just slightly. I didn't, but I thought about it. Hard. The next morning, I woke up to the sun pouring through the small bunkhouse window. My body ached in ways I hadn't expected. Muscles I didn't know existed were sore from hauling hay and mucking stalls, but it was the good kind of ache, the kind that made you feel alive, even if completely exhausted. Jesse was already out, the low rumble of a tractor engine carrying across the fields. I stepped out onto the porch, stretching, trying not to think about how the shirt clinging to his broad shoulders yesterday had left me distracted. I shoved a thought aside and grabbed my own work gloves. Today was about learning how to ride the horses. He was waiting at the paddock, leaning against the fence, arms crossed, and that same half-smile tugged at his lips. "You're on time," he said. "Figured I should start before you change your mind about me," I said, trying for humor. Jesse chuckled, the sound low and warm. "Good attitude. Helps around here." We walked to the stable together. He led me past the horses, pointing out names and temperaments. His voice was calm but carried authority. Every word he spoke made me feel like I was part of the ranch already. And yet, painfully aware that I didn't belong. Not really. "Pick a horse," he said, gesturing to the stalls. "They'll test you, so pay attention." I froze for a second. The horses were huge, powerful, and beautiful in a way that made my stomach twist. One of them, a black stallion with a white blaze on his forehead, seemed to size me up. I swallowed and stepped closer. Jesse was behind me. "Steady," he said, hand brushing mine as he adjusted my hold on the reins. That small contact, a fleeting brush, sent a jolt through me. I tried to focus on the horse, on not tripping over my own feet, on anything but Jesse's proximity. "You got it?" he asked. His voice was quiet now, right next to me, and I could smell the faint scent of tobacco and cedar from the barn. I think so," I said, heart hammering. We rode for a while, slowly, around the paddock, him giving gentle corrections. But it wasn't just riding tips that made my mind spin. It was how close he walked beside me, adjusting my posture, his hand brushing my arm occasionally, small touches that lingered longer than they should. By the time we finished, my shirt was soaked with sweat, my hands raw from the reins, and my chest felt tight, and not from exertion. Jesse looked over at me, hair sticking to his forehead, flannel damp. "Not bad for a beginner," he said, a slow smile spreading. "Most quit after day one." "Thanks," I muttered, trying to sound casual. My voice came out too high, too nervous. He stepped closer, just a little, close enough that the scent of his cologne, earthy, faintly sweet, hit me full force. His hand brushed mine again, almost accidental, but not quite. I could feel his gaze on me, steady and intense, making my stomach do flips I didn't understand. "You sure you're all right?" he asked. His eyes were searching, and I suddenly felt exposed. Not just physically, though yes, that too, but in a way that made my heart race. "Yeah," I said quickly, shaking off the tension. "Just tired, I guess." He didn't push, just nodded, though his hand lingered near mine a moment longer than it needed to. I wanted to say something, anything, but words failed me. That evening, after showers and dinner, we ended up sitting on the porch again, the ranch quiet except for crickets and the soft rustle of the wind through the fields. Jesse passed me a beer, fingers brushing mine as he handed it over. "Don't get too used to peace out here," he said with a grin. "It comes and goes." I laughed softly, though my heart was still pounding from earlier. "Yeah, I can tell." He leaned back, one arm draped over the porch railing, and I realized just how close we were. Close enough to touch. Close enough that I could feel his warmth radiating toward me. We sat in silence for a while, the kind of silence that hums with tension, unspoken thoughts, and maybe something more. My mind was spinning with questions I wasn't ready to ask. Then Jesse spoke, quietly, almost too low for the night to carry. "You're different from the others," he said, not looking at me. eyes fixed on the horizon. Different how? I asked, heart-catching. Curious, he said, simply, and not afraid to try things most people wouldn't. I swallowed hard, unsure what he meant, but the way his gaze flicked toward me and held made me shiver. That night, lying on the cot in the bunkhouse, I couldn't sleep. Every moment from the day replayed, his hands brushing mine, the intensity of his eyes, the curve of his smile. And somewhere, deep down, I realized that this job, this summer, wasn't going to be just about work. It was going to be about him. The days settled into a rhythm, the ranch waking with the sun and sleeping under a canopy of stars. I was learning fast how to read the horses, moods, how to haul bales of hay without feeling like I'd collapse, how to move in sync with this wild, dusty world that felt miles away from the noise and neon of my old city life. But it wasn't just the work that was new. It was Jesse. He was always there in the background, quiet, watchful, like a shadow that followed me everywhere. Sometimes he'd lean on the fence and just watch me work, his arms crossed, eyes intense, like he was trying to memorize every move I made. And sometimes his presence made me nervous in ways I couldn't name. One afternoon, after I finished mucking out the stalls, Jesse called me over. The sun was high and merciless, sweat trickling down my back as I wiped my hands on my jeans. "Come here," he said, voice low. I followed him to the back of the barn, where a gate led out to a small paddock. A beautiful chestnut mare was there, her eyes bright and curious. "Ever broken a horse?" Jesse asked, raising an eyebrow. I shook my head. "No, I've ridden, but never trained one." He smiled then. Slow, knowing, "Good, you'll learn." He reached for the gate latch and opened it, motioning me inside first. The mare sniffed my hand, nostrils flaring. Jesse stood behind me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off his body. He put his hands on my hips, steadying me. The touch was electric, a jolt straight to my chest. I froze for a moment, caught between wanting to pull away and wanting to lean in. "Relax," he said, his breath warm against my ear. "She can sense fear." I nodded, heart pounding. He guided me through the steps. How to hold the reins, how to sit, how to move with her. His hands didn't leave me. They shifted from my hips to my waist, gentle but firm. Every time he touched me, it sent shivers down my spine. Then, without warning, the mare startled, pulling hard on the reins. I lost my balance and stumbled back into Jesse's chest. He caught me effortlessly, arms wrapping around me, holding me close. His face was inches from mine. I could see every line, every shadow in the fading light. "Careful," he whispered. Our breaths mingled, the world narrowing to just the two of us. My heart slammed against my ribs as his gaze dropped to my lips, then back up, searching. I wanted to say something. Anything, but the words caught in my throat. Then, softly, he brushed his thumb along my jaw. "Why did you really come here, Matthew?" The question hung between us, heavy and urgent. I swallowed hard. "I don't know," I admitted. "I guess to find something real, something different." He nodded slowly, his hand tightening just a fraction on my waist. "Maybe you found it," he said, voice rough. For a moment, the only sound was our breathing. The thunder of my heartbeat, the quiet rustle of the evening breeze. Then Jesse leaned in, and our lips met. Slow, tentative, electric. It wasn't just a kiss. It was everything I didn't know I was waiting for. When we pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine. "We're breaking a lot of fences tonight," he said with a shaky laugh. I smiled, breathless. Maybe that's a good thing. After that first kiss, everything shifted. Though Jesse and I never talked about it, at least not directly. It was like we both knew something unspoken had changed between us, but neither wanted to put it into words. Maybe we were both scared. Or maybe we just wanted to hold on to the moment a little longer before reality crept back in. The days blurred together, mornings filled with chores and writing lessons, evenings with quiet talks on the porch, beer in hand, the sky bleeding pink and gold as the sun dipped behind the mountains. Sometimes, late at night, I'd catch Jesse watching me from the shadows near the barn, his eyes dark, searching like he was trying to figure out if I belonged here with him. One evening, after a long day of hauling feed and fixing fences, Jesse invited me inside the ranch house for dinner. The place was modest but warm, with framed pictures of horses and rolling fields lining the walls. He cooked spaghetti, and we ate with an easy silence that felt less like awkwardness and more like comfort. "Why'd you drop out of college?" he finally asked, voice low, eyes fixed on his plate. I hesitated. It was the question I'd been avoiding, even from myself, but something about the way he asked, genuine, patient, made me want to be honest. "I was lost," I said quietly, like I was following a path someone else made for me. I didn't know who I was anymore. He nodded, understanding. "I get that. I tried to leave this place once. Thought I could be something else, somewhere else. Did it work?" "No." He looked up, meeting my gaze. I missed the silence. The land. Even the horses. There was a vulnerability in his eyes that made my chest ache. Later that night, we sat on the porch again, wrapped in blankets against the desert chill. The stars were bright, endless. Without thinking, I reached out, my fingers brushing his. He didn't pull away. For a long time, we sat like that, hands intertwined, sharing a quiet kind of closeness that spoke louder than words. But the peace didn't last. One night, as I was heading back to the bunkhouse, Jesse caught up to me. "We need to talk," he said, voice serious. My heart sank. What had I done wrong? He took a deep breath. "This ranch, it's more than just land to me. It's all I've got left." I nodded, afraid of where this was going. "I don't want to lose it. Or you." The weight of his words hit me hard. "I'm scared," he confessed. "Scared of what this means. Scared I'm not good enough." I squeezed his hand, surprised at how much I wanted to comfort him. "You're more than enough," I said softly. He smiled, a real, honest smile that lit up his face. And just like that, we stepped closer. No more fences between us. The next few days felt like we were living in a dream, the kind where everything is perfect, but you know the morning's coming, and with it, reality. Jesse and I grew closer, sharing stolen moments between chores, brushing against each other in the barn, laughing quietly when the sun dipped low and the ranch turned gold. His rough hands felt gentle when they found mine, and his steady presence was the first thing I wanted to see every morning. But the ranch wasn't all peaceful skies and soft sunsets. One afternoon, as I was repairing a broken fence line, a black truck rolled up the dusty driveway. Jesse's face tightened when he saw who stepped out. "Caleb," he muttered under his breath. Caleb was the other ranch hand, Jesse's cousin, and he had that rough, unpredictable edge that made me uneasy from the start. He had a crooked grin, a quick temper, and a history Jesse rarely talked about. I watched as Caleb approached, his eyes flicking over me with something that felt like suspicion. "New guy, huh?" Caleb said, voice low. "Yeah," I replied, trying to keep my tone steady. Jesse stepped between us, his jaw clenched. "Caleb, this is Matthew. He's working here now." Caleb smirked. "Hope you know what you're getting into." I could tell there was history between the two of them. Old fights, maybe old betrayals, and I wasn't sure I wanted to be caught in the middle. That night, Jesse was quiet, distant even as we lay under the stars wrapped in blankets. "What's going on?" I asked gently. He sighed. "Caleb and I don't always see eye to eye. Family drama, it's complicated." I nodded, not wanting to push, but I could feel the tension like a storm cloud hanging over us. The next morning, Caleb's attitude didn't improve. He hovered, making snide comments and throwing sidelong glances. I kept my head down, focusing on the work, but I knew Jesse was watching, worried. That evening, Jesse pulled me aside near the barn. "I'm sorry," he said, voice low. "This isn't how I wanted things to be." I shook my head. "You didn't bring this on, but I'm not going anywhere." His eyes searched mine, vulnerability breaking through his usual guarded exterior. "Good," he said, a slow smile spreading, "because I need you here, more than you know." We stayed like that, close enough to touch, holding on tight as the wind picked up, whispering warnings through the tall grass. The storm hit just after midnight, thunder rolling over the hills like a warning. I woke to the sound of rain hammering the tin roof of the bunkhouse, and the flash of lightning painting the walls in harsh white light. The ranch felt different in a storm, wild, exposed. Jesse wasn't in the bunkhouse when I woke. My heart twisted. I threw on a jacket and stepped outside into the cold rain. The mud was already thick beneath my boots. I found him near the barn, sleeves rolled up, working by the light of a flickering lantern. His face was grim, eyes dark and sharp. "Jesse," I called over the rain. He didn't turn. The fence is down. Horses could get out. Without hesitation, I grabbed a spool of wire and joined him. The cold soaked through my clothes, but the urgency kept me moving. We worked side by side, fingers numb, muscles aching, but neither of us spoke. The storm was loud enough to drown out everything but the crack of thunder and our breathing. At one point, a bolt of lightning split the sky, lighting Jesse's face in stark contrast. His eyes locked on mine, fierce and vulnerable. "Why are you here?" he finally asked, voice low over the rain. I hesitated. "Because I want to be." He looked away, shaking his head. "You don't know what you're getting into. This ranch, it's not just work. It's a life. It's a commitment." I gripped the wire tighter. "I'm ready for that." He turned back to me, rain mixing with the sweat on his brow. Slowly, he reached out, brushing wet hair from my face. "You don't run from storms," he said quietly. "You learn to stand in them." The lightning cracked again, and I took a breath, feeling more alive, more sure than I ever had. When the fence was fixed, we stood close, drenched and trembling, the world reduced to just us. Without thinking, I pulled him in, kissing him hard, rain soaking us both. But it didn't matter. What mattered was this, raw, real, and undeniable. The storm had passed, but the tension lingered like a heavy fog over the ranch. The world felt different, charged, fragile, like the quiet before everything changes. Jesse and I spent the next morning repairing what the rain had torn apart, but our minds were elsewhere. Every glance, every touch was laced with something unspoken. The ranch was our sanctuary, but now it felt like the edge of something new and uncertain. That afternoon, as the sun fought through the clouds, Jesse pulled me aside near the porch. "We need to talk," he said, voice low, eyes searching. My heart hitched. "I can't pretend this is just summer work anymore," he continued. "I want more, but this ranch, it demands everything." I nodded, knowing what he meant. The place had swallowed up his family, his past, even his dreams. "I'm scared," he admitted, voice barely a whisper. "If this goes wrong, I don't know if I can handle losing it all." I reached for his hand, steadying him, even though my own future was suddenly so unclear. "You're not alone," I said. "Whatever happens, we face it together." He smiled, a flicker of hope breaking through his worry. That night, under the vast desert sky, we made promises neither of us had dared speak before. We would fight for this, for each other, for the ranch, for the life we wanted. But life has a way of testing even the strongest bonds. The next morning, Tyler called. "They're closing the ranch," he said bluntly, "the bank's repossessing it." I felt the ground shift beneath me. Jesse's jaw tightened, his face went pale. "We don't have much time," Tyler added. Jesse's eyes met mine, fierce and desperate. "This is our home. I'm not giving up without a fight." We spent the next days rallying neighbors, contacting lawyers, fighting paperwork, but the pressure was crushing, and I could see it wearing Jesse down. One night, after a long day, we sat on the porch, exhausted and raw. "Maybe I'm not cut out for this," I whispered. He shook his head, pulling me close. "You are. We both are." In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about a job or a summer fling. It was about finding a family in the dirt, the sweat, and in each other. And sometimes, love means standing together, even when the world tries to tear you apart. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Meetings with lawyers, fundraising drives, and countless phone calls. The whole community seemed to rally around Jesse and the ranch. Old friends, neighbors, even strangers who'd heard about the fight showed up with donations, advice, and encouragement. Through it all, Jesse never lost that quiet strength. But I saw the cracks, the sleepless nights, the worry lines deepening around his eyes. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and purple, we sat together on the porch, exhausted but hopeful. "I couldn't have done any of this without you," Jesse said, his voice soft but steady. "You showed me what it means to fight." I smiled, squeezing his hand. "We're a team now, you and me." That night, under the stars, we made our future clear, not just surviving the storm, but building something new from the ashes. Weeks later, the verdict came. The bank agreed to a payment plan, giving Jesse the chance to keep the ranch. It wasn't a miracle, just hard work, stubbornness, and the support of those who believed in the land and in him. As summer turned into fall, the ranch thrummed with life again. Horses grazed peacefully, fences stood strong, and the field stretched wide beneath the endless sky. Jesse and I worked side by side, partners in every sense, finding in each other a home neither of us expected. One evening, as we watched the sun dip below the horizon, Jesse slipped his hand into mine. "Guess you're stuck with me," he said with a grin. "Wouldn't have it any other way," I replied. And just like that, the ranch wasn't just a place to work. It was where my heart had found its home.